Start ചെയ്തൂടെ?
Sir, 1 minute.
Okay.
Hello, dear friends.
Welcome.
All are welcome to the 4th day international seminar organized by Dr. Kumar Library and Research Center and Gramina Padana Kendra, FLCT organizations. Today's subject of the seminar: gender inclusive governance towards equitable local development. Today I invite Srimati Binu Anamangar, Program Manager Kudumbasri, to deliver welcome speech.
Binu Anamangar.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello?
Please.
Audible.
Binu mute ചെയ്തേക്കുവാണ്.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Good evening all. A warm welcome to this international online seminar series. As you are aware, today's topic is gender inclusive governance in Kerala towards equitable local development. And I'm here to officially welcoming all of you. We are privileged to welcome our esteemed panelists. We have Honorable TV Anupama IAS, Special Secretary, Local Self-Government Department, Government of Kerala, as a panelist. Welcome, ma'am. And Sejal Dant, Practical Lead and Co-Founder of the organization RMD, is here with us. Welcome, ma'am. Dr. Mini Sukumar, Member, Kerala State Planning Board, is with us. Hearty welcome to this seminar, ma'am. And we also have Dr. Anisha Jaydev, Professor, Institute of Management and Governance, as a panelist. Welcome, ma'am. We are also pleased to welcome Dr. Monisha, District Program Manager, Kudumbasri, who will be presenting the concept paper today. And warm welcome to the all team members who had worked behind this, behind the development of this paper. And a special welcome to our moderator, Dr. K.P. Srilada Kumari, Director, Dr. Kumar Library and Research Center. Thank you. And once again, welcome to all the participants who are here to listen, share and contribute to this discussion. I now kindly invite our moderator, Srilada Madam, to lead us forward the remaining sessions.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Today, the 4th day of the International Seminar Series titled Reimagining Decentralization in Kerala, Local Governance for a Sustainable Future. Today's theme is gender inclusive governance towards equitable local development. Gender inclusive governance is a framework for governance that ensures the equitable representation of all genders in political and social decision making. It involves incorporating gender equality as a core value, eliminating discriminatory practices, and increasing representation in leadership to ensure fairness and effectiveness. Kerala promotes gender inclusive governance and equitable local development through policies like 50% reservation for women in local bodies, dedicated funds for women development, and programs like Kudumbashree to empower women and foster livelihood opportunities. Today, we have 5 speakers in this seminar. Now, I first invite Dr. Monisha Yu to present the background note. Dr. Monisha, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, respected delegates and participants. It's an honor for me to present this concept paper titled Gender Inclusive Governance in Kerala Towards Equitable Local Development. This is a concept paper that we have prepared for the upcoming discussion. After receiving your valuable suggestions, we will revise and refine the paper accordingly. In this presentation, I will be discussing how Kerala has advanced gender inclusion within its decentralized governance system. Next, the achievements it has been made and the continuing challenges that must be addressed to ensure equitable local development. Ma'am, can you help me to move the slides, ma'am? Actually, I can see the presentation. Hello, am I audible?
Actually, the presentation sharing screen is disabled. I already communicated. It will be taken care of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I supposed to present? Then okay, fine. Thank you, sir. Move to next first slide, sir. After the title. Okay, thank you, sir. Kerala's model of development is globally recognized for its human development indicators and participatory local governance. The roots of Kerala's inclusive local governance lie in the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments of 1992, which mandated decentralization and 1/3 reservation for women. When it comes to Kerala went beyond this constitutional minimum. Since 2010, the state has implemented a 50% reservation for women in local self-government, resulting in over 15,000 elected women representatives across all tiers. Gender budget. It's also expanded significantly from 11.4% to 20.9%. Kerala is the first Indian state to adopt transgender policy, affirming gender diversity and inclusion. Inclusion, yeah. One of the major cornerstones of Kerala's gender inclusive governance is Kudumbashree. It is established in 1998. Recently, it has been expanded all over the nation, and today it is recognized as Asia's largest women collective. It has played a pivotal role in promoting inclusive local governance in Kerala. However, these achievements coexist with persistent challenges. First and foremost, the female workforce participation rate stands only 36.4%, and issues like the proxy politics to undermine representation. Moreover, intersectional exclusion affects women from SC/ST, vulnerable areas, religious minorities, and the TG communities continue to face structural barriers to participation and limited translation of representation into decision-making power. Strategic gender needs remain unaddressed. Yeah. Next Sir, next slide, sir. Role of Kudumbashree in gender inclusive governance. Kudumbashree has been working three-tier system, and it has been organized over millions of women into 3 tiers, disbursing over 10,000 crore in credit and developing thousands of micro enterprises. Tail and Reef, Asia's largest women collective with millions organized into neighborhood groups, disbursed over, as I said earlier, around 10,000 crore in credit. They have ensured the economic empowerment and livelihood creation, implementing partner for earlier, like partner for MGNREGS, and ensured that 90% women workers enabled micro enterprises and collective farming initiatives. When it comes to the social inclusion and gender mainstreaming, Kudumbashree has played a pivotal role to create a pathway for managing members to ward members, committee chairs, and panchayat presidents, and do work with the partnership of the local self-government. Next slide, sir. Comprehensive safety concern. Kerala's safety architecture for women and gender minorities is notably comprehensive. The Saki one-stop centers established in every district provide medical, legal, and psychosocial support. All these services under one roof they are providing. The Mitra 181 helpline, it's always there 24/7 emergency support service as an entry point for the women, those who are in distress, and providing referral services to police and other social services. Snehida Gender Help Desk are functioning all the districts. It's a special initiative of Kudumbashree and managed to 24 help centers across all 4 districts, providing counseling, shelter, legal aid, and medical assistance since 2013. Now, this Snehida has extended to even police stations through Snehida Police Extension Centers. Through this network, Kerala state has ensured the safety architecture. Like another important factor is in the grassroots level, we have Jagrata Samiti, that's ward level vigilance committee, preventing atrocities, investigating compliance, and coordinating with police and legal aid. Next, institutional innovations. Has been another hallmark of Kerala's inclusive model. The Gender Park in Kozhikode serves as a center for research, training, advocacy, and other major initiatives. It has also pioneered studies in transgender inclusion and gender studies for public spaces. The She Taxi initiative launched in 2013 and relaunched in 2020 across all 40 districts. Approximately 45 women drivers statewide provide safe travel and ownership opportunity. So scale remains modest. Moreover, the Women Compliance Plan is operational since 1997. It mandates 10% of LSD plan funds for the women specific projects, and it funds for the self-help groups, skill development trainings, and other gender sensitive infrastructure. In addition to this, we have ICDS and Anganwadi centers, over 33,000 centers providing nutrition, health, education for children under 6, and supporting pregnant women and adolescent girls. Among all these achievements, we do identify some challenges. First and foremost, the wage gap occurs and occupational segregation. Women and transgender individuals remain overrepresented in informal and low-paid sectors, and the limited representation women occupy only in a small share of leadership and STEM roles. Social stigma is there. Like we have to break this stigma. Transgender persons encounter discrimination, unemployment, and lack of workplace safety. Then the unpaid care work. Women's domestic responsibilities continue to be there without breaking the stereotypes within the household. It restricts labor mobility and time for skill development. Policy directions and institutional responses. Kerala's gender equality and empowerment policy established enacted in 2021 and transgender policy in 2015. All these major initiatives mark crucial steps forward. However, effective implementation demands gender-sensitive budgeting in all local and state projects, inclusion of transgender persons in skill development and entrepreneurship schemes, expansion of flexible work model and family-friendly workplaces, institutional gender audits across sectors. Critical barriers to transformation. Despite the progress, several structural barriers continue to hinder true transformation. Firstly, we have to discuss the proxy politics. Often results in male family members informally controlling the decisions of elected women representatives. Then intersectional disadvantages. It restricts the participation of SC/ST women, religious minorities, and transgender persons. Then economic informality keeps over 70% of employed women in informal sectors. Care burden, like including child care and health care, and lack of these institutional supports for the care system, remind women economic and political under engagement. Limited upward mobility. Local representation has been translated proportionately to higher legislative bodies. Transgender persons largely excluded from political pipelines. Then finally, the administrative inertia is like sporadic training fails to equip officials to challenge social norms, manage complex gender responsive projects. This pattern shows that while policy has advanced, patriarchal norms and social expectations remain deeply entrenched. Way forward, we need a social and cultural transformation. Enhancing gender equality and empowerment requires a deep social change alongside policy reform. Families, communities, and institutions must share domestic responsibilities and organize unpaid care work. LSGIs and community can play a catalyst role in like promoting awareness on gender roles and inclusive workplaces, support the skill training and digital literacy, and ensure a dignified, safe, equitable work environment for all genders. Currently, Kerala's gender policies mainly focusing on the primary practical gender needs only, like largely on addressing practical gender needs. However, like Caroline Moser in 1993 explains in her triple gender roles, its gender planning framework's real empowerment depends on meeting the strategic gender needs, those challenging power hierarchy over transforming social norms. In other ways, we can say that inclusion must evolve from being symbolic to being substantive. This paradigm shift should be addressed. To make this transition, several pathways are essential. Firstly, meaningful participation to ensure voices from marginalized identities in Grama Sabhas, board committees, and planning discussions. Secondly, inclusive budgeting. Explicitly include transgender categories with outcome-oriented tracking and gender scorecards. Safely, capacity building to ensure the systematic training on gender identity, rights, and non-discriminatory service delivery for all officials. Finally, co-design and partnership. Collaborate with women's collectives, transgender organizations, and civil society to cooperate policies. As UNDP's 2022 report suggests that like sustainable inclusion is not achieved through framework alone, but through continuous dialogue and partnership. To conclude, Kerala stands as a model of progression, gender inclusive governance, yet this journey is far from complete. The challenges now lie not in creating new frameworks, but in transforming political culture and redistributing power. Thus, the next phase of Kerala's development story must be one of the deepened democracy, shared power, and injustice. Thank you, and now open for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Monisha. Now I invite Srimati Anupama TV IAS, Special Secretary, Local Sub-Government Department, to deliver the speech.
Thank you so much. Thanks to Dr. Monisha also for that wonderful background presentation. It truly captured the journey of Kerala's local development through the the framework of gender inclusive governance. And instead of focusing on the specific areas where the local governance should be aligned with in the next few years, I would prefer to talk about the direction which the local governance structure in the Kerala that should be taking over the next few years, because the last two slides were essentially talking about that. So as we know, Kerala did not see this as a women issue. Instead, it was always a development imperative. And that was the reason why the kind of development and the kind of thought that was put into the development of the system that leads to this current level of inclusiveness that was brought in because of that thought that it is not a gender issue, it is not a women issue, but it is a development imperative, that we are not talking about it as a mere social indicator, but it is a part of the social fabric, and we should be constantly talking about it instead of individually addressing it as a single problem at a time. But then, even while we had that thought, we had that belief, and we had that development perspective in mind, when it came to practicality, it was lost midway. I wouldn't say it was completely lost, but as the presentation rightly pointed out, the framework truly captured the first aspect of it, like the removal of the barriers for the women and the transgenders, like coming up with inclusive schemes and designs, and some of the safety architecture rightly pointed out in the presentation, and bringing in mandatory reservation and like the necessary capacity building training budgeting that comes with the mandatory reservation and the inclusiveness thoughts. So the first part of it, like when we see it as a development imperative, that is the right place to talk to start with, or the right place to talk about. And that's why we developed a good structure involving the reservation, the women component plan, and including the HR component. All that was perfectly put in place. So, and I would say it is not easy to quantify it. For example, that definitely elevated the status of women. For example, the kind of involvement that the Kudumbashree had in the local governance fabric, that definitely elevated the levels. But even then, if we specifically look into the aspect of it, whether the traditional role of women shifted or whether the stereotype totally changed, there we would find a shortcoming. So that's where we should head towards the next level. So I would say the next level talks more about involvement of the women, taking control of the situation and taking power of the situation. So if you take any women empowerment theories put forth by any liberal in the world, it talks about ending the women empowerment with, or opening the horizon of women empowerment with participation, control, and leadership. And we always get participation and control and leadership in our entire fabric, but more in a quantitative manner, like whether the quality of reservation was met, no. Whether the intention of gender budgeting was truly reflective in the field, no. So that's where now we have to focus on the qualitative element of this inclusiveness. For example, like the participation and the leadership are visible right now in a manner that the women are visible. But at the same time, when it comes to the final decision making, final policy framing, final policy framework, whether the voices of these women are completely felt, completely heard, there we can definitely find a lacuna. And that's what the local governance should fill the gap in over the next few years. It is more like, instead of focusing on women's participation or forced participation, it is also ending the outcome with the women participation. Like, it will be like inculcating the culture of women participation in all the areas that are taken up by the local government. So, for example, like Dr. Monisha spoke about the proxy governance and all that. So the proxy governance is something that has to be changed. When the thought comes, that's where the real involvement and the power and the control of the women starts, not when the reservation is assured. So I think it is definitely, the entire state is definitely going in that direction. For example, like when it comes to widening the capabilities and the freedom of the women. So right now we have started to talk about it, whether the local self-government and the local governance institutions and the Kudumbashree are talking about it, not fully there yet, like enhancing the capabilities of women in a manner that they are able to take control over the situation, they are able to ensure their own participation, not a forced participation by their male counterpart or anybody. And whether the kind of freedom that a woman wants to enjoy, whether that freedom is a part of the societal fabric, or the whether the freedom is something that is built into the system. It should not be some freedom, level of freedom that somebody is offering the woman. Like I would again connect it to the reservation part. If a woman is has a free choice of, or if the entire system allows a woman for her a free choice of participation in the electoral process, that's where the system wins, not when the system is asking a woman to contest because it is a woman reserved ward. So that's where we should be heading in the coming days. And for that, like, a few suggestions were also made, like capacity building, to the extent that it is not a like a decision for the system, but it is a decision by the woman for her own life, for leading the life in the way she wants. And the second aspect would be, like, if you're focusing on gender planning or gender budgeting, whether that is limiting the freedom of the woman or opening new horizons, new opportunities for the women. So those are the directions in which the system should now be thinking, the local governance system. But unfortunately, the aspect that would be coming in the way, that's where I think we should be talking about that also in the coming days, is what I'm thinking. Because any system is limited by the thoughts of the functionaries. If the functionaries are positive thinkers, progressive thinkers, free thinkers, the system will also be responding the same manner. But then whether the functionaries of the local bodies, whether they are public representatives or the officials of the local self-government departments, or the officials of the Kudumbashree, or the officials of the civils, or the officials of the civil society organizations which are supporting the decentralization, whether we are able to influence the functionaries also to think in a manner that is aiding the aiding the better inclusive governance. That's where the real success or the real outcome starts from. So while we are putting up systems to remove the barriers, while we are talking about the transformation that is required in the local self-government institution schemes, budgeting plans and all that, it is equally important to ensure that the functionaries are also persuaded, the functionaries are also trained, and the functionaries are also selected, which is also important. Like whether the selection process of the local self-government institutions, the selection process of the Kudumbashree, whether they are accounting for the factor that the gender responsive governance is the future, and a functionary who is absorbed into the system, that person possesses enough ideal to go with that system. So that's where those are some of the directions we should be thinking about in the coming days. And I think it is beautifully laid out in the background plan also, but the real challenge lies where we'll be able to convert into practical framework, practical plan guidelines, practical capacity building framework of the local bodies and the Kudumbashree. And in the budget and financial planning of the LSGIs and LSCDs. Like when I talk about it, like it's overwhelming to say that despite, I mean, like, despite having like 50 plus departments in the state, the local governance, the local government institutions and the allied agencies are handling almost 43% of the total budget of the state. So if a culture is built into that budget, that is going to be reflected in the entire state as well. So these are some of the areas that we would have to work in the coming days. I'll limit my response to these words now. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am, for the excellent presentation. Now I invite Srimati Sejal Dutt, co-founder of Anandi, to respond to the background note.
Yes,
Ma'am,
thank you
please.
very much for this invitation. Sitting here in Gujarat, I've always felt that Kerala has been miles ahead of us, and we compare you to really the Scandinavian countries in almost every human development index within the country. And I think in a time when there is so much centralization of powers, of data, of decision making, continue to having the faith in empowering, in decentralizing power itself is very, very hopeful and heartful. And I thank you for your excellent, given your long history and immense work. Just today morning, we were having a meeting on AgriStack and how can we include the excluded populations. And 2-3 times we came up with examples of Kerala, what is being done through the labor banks, on how land is being leased to women's collectives, why landless agriculture labor have to be enumerated within the AgriStack. So time and again, we have looked to Kerala to give us hope and to look at how creatively can national schemes, which are like top down, handed out, can be creatively turned to the intent and purpose they serve. The implementation of MGNREGS in Kerala, for instance, completely led through by women and by the women's groups, including at all levels and not only as workers, is a fine example of that. Having said that, I think the challenges are real. Post-COVID, we've all seen a big backlash and increasing violence against women. And this is not only in the political sphere, but actually in everyday violence. And for me, one of the root causes of women's collectives and the immense power that women's collectives hold should actually reflect in the reduction of violence, because that is transformative power. And that itself, that the presence of such a large number of collectives, both within Kutumshri and outside of that, in political bodies, at least in the membership in Kerala, should have actually led us to see far more women in decision making, both in the labor sphere as well as in the political decision making. But we can see that women are really kind of sticky floors, what we call it, that they are stuck at the bottom. So here are some of my reflections, and I'm going to start with like really the two things that was mentioned as a challenge. The unequal burden of domestic and care work. And this is a worldwide phenomenon. But I was at the CSW 69 this year, and the Iceland president, currently Iceland, and I compare your progress to Iceland. So there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Kerala will get there much quicker than the rest of us in the country will. There are 46% women in the parliament. 6 out of the 11 political parties are led by women. And their president, prime minister currently are both women. And Hala Thomas de Tor, when she was talking to us at CSW and we were asking her what was a big thing that made this change. And she said, in Iceland, it is normal for women to be a leader and normal for a father to be on paternity leave. Unless we can actually create the change in the mindset, but also she said, invest in the infrastructure, which reduces domestic and care work, where it becomes largely state and community responsibility. If we are in the informal sector, obviously universal childcare. And I'm really hoping to look at examples of how many GPs are setting up good childcares. There's an existing plan which never got rolled out, where the ICDS centers were to turn into full-time with an additional worker childcare centers, which would leave women the space and the time to work. Many of the women and men, probably families in Kerala, have a migrant worker where one of the adults in the household has migrated to work. So we need to look at what infrastructure, care infrastructure, have we created, and what are the interesting ways we can create it, both through public funding, through public-private partnerships, that will essentially free up this burden for women to be actively seeking gainfully employed work outside of the domestic sphere. Right now, the costs are too high. So we have a U-shaped curve in the country as well as in Kerala, because the opportunity cost of getting into employment is much higher for women who have children. So for me, actually tackling this, and for me, it was really hopeful to see that you can do it at a policy and a country level. The second thing I wanted to say was, I agree with my previous speaker that institutions matter. It's the institutional design of gender transformative governance that needs to be addressed. And that requires very, very aware. I'm not going to say sensitive. People can be sensitive, but they have to be consciously aware as duty bearers to ensure that no discrimination is tolerated at any level. The reason why proxy powers work with elected members is because somewhere in the government, we are allowing this to happen. Time and again, we have gone in Gujarat and asked the government to say, how is your revenue officer entertaining this man? Who is this? He's not the elected man. How are you actually listening and allowing people who are not elected but are proxies to sit into meetings and deliberations? You would not allow this to happen across caste and other intersectionalities. So I think it is upon duty bearers to be very, very conscious that no proxies are allowed, and we create a safe, enabling environment for women to actually act in their powers that they hold in office. I think the second is processes matters. I don't know how to say this, but unless we have data at the level of the Gram Panchayat, we recently did a report card, the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. It's a universal, it's a national scheme which is for all landowners. And we have several objections of why are the landowners, non-landowner farmers not included. But that aside, we took it to the village panchayat and said, okay, let's see how many names do you have on ROR, how many men, how many women, and how many are getting access to the PM Kisan. So the panchayat said, we have no role in it because it's all centralized and people are having to fill up the forms. I said, yes, but you have a role in monitoring whether people who are being excluded and whether people are getting access to this scheme. And overall in Gujarat, we found that only 33% of landholders were getting. And between men and women, we found a gender differential, while 19% of women landowners were getting access to the scheme, 42.8% of male landholders were getting access to the scheme. So, and we have process matters and the devil is in the details. And I think you have the capacity in Kerala to actually create gender report cards, to look at essential areas where the gender inequalities exist, whether you want to talk of labor, you want to talk of access to social protection, you want to talk of land, you want to talk of house ownership. And let decide on the 5, 6 critical areas and create gender report cards and figure out for every panchayat to make a plan to say, how are we going to reduce this gender gap? Whether it be in wages, it be in employment, it be in, education, you already bridged the gap. So I'm not mentioning that. Um, but one way to do is for people to, formalize data collection, analysis, and it should be an ongoing, it shouldn't be done centrally, it should be done decentralized where people own the data, collect the data, look at it, and think of solutions of how are they going to bridge this gap. I think the next issue was money. Obviously, not all of this can happen without more commitments towards building gender equality. I think there is a 10% women's component plan. We talk about gender budget plan that's gone up to 20.9. But if I look at the government of India data, then I see they have dumped a whole lot of schemes under gender budget, which are not necessarily addressing strategic interest or even practical interest only of women. For instance, the entire ICDS budget is under the gender budget. How is it that the children who are voters for future and carriers of the family names are suddenly only considered to be women's responsibility and part of the gender budget? So I think we need to finance. Intersectionality and equality requires a commitment. It needs to be backed by money for it to translate into real gains. And I think more than that, it has to be movement building. And who else but Kerala can actually lead us towards showing you'll have every decade led a significant movement led by people with very, very interesting combinations. I think we need a movement for gender equality. And we need to think of it creatively using all our resources and go at it till we achieve the numbers that we want to see on the paper. And I think lastly, I want to say that a good start is made when we acknowledge we have a problem instead of, calling ourselves the best. If I have a minute to share, we recently had a national sammelan of elected women representatives, and they came up with a 10th LSDG goal. Is it possible for me to share? No, it's not turned on. So the 10th LSDG goal, I will just read to you. I was thinking I'll share it. I'll email it to you later. And it was really on recognizing, it says, zero tolerance for gender-based violence, physical, sexual, verbal, economic, or psychological against women and third gender, irrespective of the place, is not a personal issue, but a matter of public peace and order. And we have to have panchayats commit to zero tolerance to gender-based violence and to take responsibility of a violence-free village. And obviously, what can we do for it? We have a short, the women came up with a short 10 pointers. What should be 100? No compromise in preventing domestic violence at home or in public places. Derogatory languages and songs, abuse related to women must be completely stopped in public places. Helpline numbers, and you all have several, Mitra, whatever. They're not enough. We need a much wider architecture to ensure that help reaches and help is sought and given. Good quality help is given to survivors of violence. And women and girls should be able to move freely and fearlessly in public spaces such as markets, schools, and roads. And obviously, some things which are, the Supreme Court has been reminding us time and again, and we still haven't got to it. Activation of POSH committees in all institutions within the panchayat jurisdiction. Preventive measures to be taken through coordination of Gram Sabha, police, and the justice system. No displacement of violence victims or survivors due to violence, where the women are forced to abandon their homes. No to sex selective abortion. And in our case, because we were in an Adivasi area, we had panchayats needed to protect young people who marry by choice out of their community or caste. I don't know whether that's a problem. So we really need to localize the context and the GP the right level to do it and come up with it. I'm going to share this to LSDG 10, and I hope you all find it of value and bring it ahead. In fact, one team from Anandi just left today again for Kerala to study your governance system. And I'm so glad to be listening to all of you and your thoughts on what is 2.0 version of LSDG. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Srimati Ini Sukumar, member of Kerala State Planning Board, to present.
Namaskaram. Hope I am audible to all. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Monisha, for giving a extensive background for the development of the gender and governance structure in the state. And also, I am thankful to Anupama for giving a good introduction towards the emerging issues and the problems we have to address with. And Sejal has already pointed out several things which is relevant to a framework of gender and governance. So I am basically talking, my take is mainly towards the Kerala specific things which we are looking in the coming future regarding the gender and governance in the context of local self-government institutions. I think that will be more focused for this discussion. So we all know that Kerala has a very good record card in terms of women's participation in the governance structures at the local level. And also we have established certain mechanisms, certain processes, and certain structures regarding this governance structure, like the women component plan, or the reservations, and again that women's participation in various committees and the grassroots level network of Kudumbashree. All this structure has been there for some time, and it has been institutionalized to support the entire gender framework of the state. And at the state level, we have this gender budgeting at a different level. So that also created an enabling environment towards implementing many of these programs. And through the years, we are witnessing that the gender budgeting component is increasing at the state level, and it is also spreaded across different sectors which is considered traditional for women, and also non-traditional sectors like transport or police or several other things. All this created a network or a conducive environment for certain things which can be done. But at the same time, we are experiencing different sorts of issues. When we have started this work on gender and governance or gender and decentralization, the main concern was regarding the visibility of women in the public sphere in terms of their participation, leadership, and decision making. And basically that visibility question was more or less answered, because women are more visible at different layers of the governance at the local level. And but now, as Anupama has already mentioned that now our question is about the quality of that governance thing. But when we are talking about all this in terms of structures and structures and processes, we have to understand one thing, that is gender is an evolving framework. Gender is not a static framework. Even this differentiation between the strategic and practical needs is not a static thing. Every time it is evolving, and whenever we set a goal like this, and at the same or after some time, or after a brief time, we have to set the goal into a further level, so that and always this patriarchy and this patriarchal structures are also evolving. So the new issues and new problems are also coming in that process. So we have to understand gender as an evolving structure, as an evolving framework. Then only we can use it into the terms of governance, because many of these governance structures, they are more or less static or concrete in terms of its rules and regulations and all that. And many issues related to gender relations, or the issues in the society are going much beyond that. So at that time, we are using this other aspects of the gender, and or the we address the issues from a different point of view also. And when we are considering about the near future or the new structures of the local governance, we need to address certain changing patterns in our society, because the when we started the dialogue on gender 20-25 years back, now the societal the entire structure of the society in terms of its socio-cultural or to an extent economical aspects, it is changed. It is changing. So we have to consider many other dimensions in this context, and that is very important. For example, this demographic transition. The demographic transition in Kerala is affecting at every level in our developmental agenda. It is a major concern. Within the household, if we are talking about, many of these earlier speakers are also talking about the care burden. So the care burden, or the gender relations, or the aspirations, and the youth aspirations, everything is related to this demographic transition. And we have to consider how we are accommodating or how we are addressing this demographic transition from a gender side, from a gender perspective. So the increasing number of people, the 60+ population in our society, and within that population also, women are becoming a major section, and the women who are living and supporting themselves without any other support systems. And how do the new governance structures or the people in governance address this issue at the local level? It's a big question. So there are also our notions about the distribution of the care within and outside the household, the new arrangements which have to come, which have to be established at the societal level, the societal responsibility, the community responsibility, and the societal responsibility of addressing the care burden, even it's for child care as well as the care for the elderly. So this is this is some of the newer areas we have to address. And also the question of migration, both in migration and out migration. We all know that from the statistics that women are also like a mobile group, and women also have aspirations to go abroad and go outside the state to work, to study and all. So the demographic pattern as well as the migration patterns are changing. There also how we can address this sort of different issues related to this influx and outflow of this migration of people from our society, and how it is reflected into our governance system, governance structures from a gender point of view. That's another thing. And climate change is another challenge we are facing, and how it is affecting the women, and how it is affecting our day-to-day, everyday engagement with our nature and with people, and how this new local governments are addressing that thing. And within all these new emerging issues, how do we see its gender dimension is very important. How do we see it? How do we address it? And how do we finding solutions to that is very important, I think. And also this changing paradigm of gender in terms of the gender relations and the marriage structures and the marriage divorces and many things, and the gender relations within the society, and new aspirations and new directions that the younger people are thinking about marriage, and marriage producing children, or how they are taking care of the children, and how they are dreaming or imagining their family and in their personal relationships within the family. And the new masculinities, how it is working, and how the new masculinities and different types of crime and similar situations are affecting the women in our society, which Sejal has already mentioned, that violence against women, that also we have to address it from a more complex type of approach we have to develop towards that, and how these masculinities are being formed, and how it is spreading out, and how these hyper masculinities are becoming a role model within our society and all. And what are the cultural changes happening in terms of communication, in terms of our language and literature, in terms of our visual culture, in terms of many of the issues related to the violations towards women, girls, and children. How these things are happening, and always this care burden, how the care is now being taken care of, and how do we can redistribute the care within the household, within the communities, and in the larger society. What are the new support systems we have to build up as part of the local governance to support women, and also the people from other genders to come forward and experience their life in a fully nourished manner, that we have to think about. And how the notions of autonomy and choice is being exercised, experienced by the people in the society. And the new notions of autonomy and interdependence and the choices has to be deliberated and understand. We have to understand that changes within the society. So sometimes we may many of the people are thinking about how this governance or the local self-governments are concerned about all these things, because it is not very concrete, but it's not in terms of certain tangible things, no. But all these non-tangible changes in the society is very important in terms of working with people for a local level governance structure. So that all we have to think about. And so in this context, we have to think about what should be the guiding principle of gender and development in the current context in our society. What should be the guiding principle? It should be, we all will agree about certain larger things like equality, non-discrimination, etc., etc. And how do we can localize it in terms of women's voices, women's participation, women's leadership in each and every structures, which is very important in deciding the quality of local governance in our society. That we have to think about with a more concrete or more in a more expansive form. That's one thing. And there is always a conflict between the developmental agenda and also the agenda for the gender needs in the society. So to an extent, we are in Kerala, we succeeded in understanding that conflict points, but still we have to there are more things to understand. What is the conflict between the society, the developmental agenda, and also the real needs of the women and the other gendered people in our society. So, and how to integrate those needs into different sectoral priorities is very important. And many people are talking about this proxy of governance in terms of this local government structures. But in the context of Kerala, I differ from that general opinion, because if we are considering the environment of Kerala, the Kerala context, proxy is little bit an overloaded term, I think, because here it is not like the proxy is working within the structure, not like that, but there are different influences and different and several controls are there, but we never forget about our society, which is politically coordinated, or it is highly influenced by the political parties and their involvement in any level of governance structures, whether it is in the local level or it's in the state, the other power structures. They are all, we can see a very strong political interchanging or interplay at every level. So that is, I never think that it's a negative thing, because through this political work, now women are more and more involved in the local level, governance structures, as well as they are involved in their political work also. At the local level, political work also. Maybe it is not up to the level what we dream for, but it's there. So the proxies is not, it's different from other parts of India. Here also there are controls, there are the misogynist practices within the political parties, and also maybe the male domination. These are all existing, but it's a positive story if we are thinking it from the side of gendering the politics, or the feminist politics is infiltrating into the political agenda through the work of this local level women leaders and women who are working. So now that change we have to acknowledge, and that is very important, I think. Maybe it's not enough, but it's very important. So the political parties, many of the people are not mentioning about the role of the political parties in the governance structures, but I think that's very important. The political parties, the cultural organizations, and the community organizations and different faith groups, everything is important in terms of a local governance agenda. So, and their involvement is also very important. So these all constitute the real gender atmosphere or environment or climate in a local level political situation, and in a local level governance structure. These are all involved there, and within this local level, it is also very intense also. So that also another dimension. We haven't started those discussions, but it's time to start those discussions in engendering the political party structures, the community structures, these community organizations, and the other cultural and other organizations, how to engender them through this gender politics. That's another important thing, that the quality always related to all these things. So we have to start those type of discussions, I think, because we are all aiming into a more democratic and more participatory governance at the local level. So we need to make it more participatory, more inclusive, and also more and more which can claim a much higher level of democracy. So that is the goal we are looking into. So into that into that journey, it is very important. So we need to reimagine our gender agenda, the agenda of gender equality or gender participation or gender equity in the local level. We have to reimagine it every year or every time. We have to rework it, revisit the older slogans, and we have to make new goals and new agenda for the gender component of the governance. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. Anisha Jaydev, Professor, Institute of Management and Economics. Ma'am, please.
Good evening, everybody. This is I think I'm the last one to speak. Thank you, Dr. Monisha, for a very detailed deliberation and the background note. Dr. Anupama ma'am, Shijal Anand, Dant, Mini ma'am, all of you have pointed out the various facets of what you call gender inclusivity to the local governance. I'm just responding and highlighting. Can you please excuse me for 1 minute?
Okay.
Thank you very much. So I'm just adding on a couple of points or so extending some thought process to the background paper which was presented by Monisha ma'am. Mini madam has pointed out that the proxy politics which is seen in Kerala is not something which we see elsewhere in the country. Yes, what she said is right, but we do have our own difficulties and our own issues of proxiness in politics. So a couple of strategies are there to overcome this, like leadership training, mentoring programs, and strict enforcement of the gender empowerment policies in all the spheres of governance. These things can address the proxy politics. And we have been focusing on intersectionality. All the speakers have pointed out points on intersectionality. So now we are here targeting on interventions to ensure equitable access to resource and representation of not only women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, religious minorities, but we are in the process of adding transgender people into the arena. So what happens when we discuss about the transgender people is that the visibility of transgender is not, it is an umbrella term. It's an umbrella term wherein there are trans men, trans women, and the intersex people. The issue is that the trans men often get overlooked in discussions about all this transgender inclusivity. They are, as you all know, individuals assigned female at birth who identify and live as men. The key issues are which are faced by the trans men are lack of visibility, healthcare disparities, reproductive right issues, violence and harassments. We have to see that 51% of the trans men across the state have responded that they have undergone some sort of sexual assault in their lifetime, and the mental health issues. So when we say that the local self-government and the the gender inclusivity in initiatives focus on intersectionality, we should not let the trans men to be washed out from our discussions. Then expanding economic opportunities. We know that Kudumbashree has been a pivot in creating the formal and high quality employment opportunities. Now we have to integrate this opportunity into the mainstream industries like IT, ecotourism, and other emerging sectors. Then we always address the care burden. Despite all this education, all the social empowerment, women are not in a position, the Kerala women are not in a position to wean out the guilt of being a woman. Like you always, I would like to say that despite the ability of the woman to work away from home, outside home, we are always chained into a thought that we have to take care of all the domestic responsibilities without any kind of adjustments. So this particular thing make women underemployed. That is one great issue which arises. Then strengthening the gender budgeting initiative, which we are progressing in a great way. And we have already said that in the future, we will be concentrating more on the strategic gender needs. Then how come we promote the upward political mobility? We know that decentralized planning and decentralized governance have brought in a lot of women into the local self-government's power centers. But we see the higher legislative positions are not being or else the women are not in a position to gauge themselves into the higher legislative positions. How are we going to address that is a very, very, very critical question. And again, so engage men and boys into the inclusivity initiatives much further. Like importance of involving cisgender men, boys in gender equality efforts through community dialogues, awareness campaign, educational programs, etc., will give them a more sense of shared responsibility, and they will also be in a position to challenge the patriarchal norms. Then leverage technology. The purpose of use of digital tools for transparent gender budgeting, tracking processes, and improved service delivery. This will add on to the accountability of governance. And then there is something which we have to do, that is this expansion of the successful models. So scaling up the she taxi initiatives or other financial sustainable models from within the Kudumbashree initiatives into the main stream platforms. Then global lessons. So discuss how Kerala model of gender inclusive governance can serve as a blueprint for other regions. One of our panelists have already said that during the discussion processes, the phenomenal efforts of Kerala is lauded. Along with so there should be a lot more mechanisms wherein this particular model serves as a blueprint for other regions globally, emphasizing the importance of combining decentralization, statutory reservations, and innovative institutional mechanisms. Institutional mechanisms have been already dealt with. Then the safety support systems. Apart from having the Mitra 181 helplines, Snehida, gender help desk, etc., the community awareness campaigns should be done more emphatic in a way that the safety and support systems will be into this wider society. The last point is the long-term vision. We should have a long-term vision that focuses on structural transformation and redistribution of power. Power is not a very nobody want to give away power, irrespective of the fact that they all know the significance of women coming into the power, but dismantling patriarchy norms is not a very easy task. So if we have to achieve true gender justice, there should be some concerted efforts in which we will be able to ensure that the patriarchal norms are what you call dismantled. So thank you for hearing. Thank you for the opportunity to present my points also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We are coming to the end of this today's session. Thank you for the excellent presentations. First, our ma'am, Anupama ma'am, Special Secretary of Local Government Department, mainly mentioned about the emerging issues to be addressed and the challenges faced and the transformation required for it, for the development of equitable local development, and also strongly mentioned the quality of the governance also. Srimati Sejal then from Anandi pointed out the need of public funding and the public-private participation for the this gender inclusive governance, etc., such type of activities, and the challenges faced by the women in the informal sector also. Minimum point out that there is a need to address the changing pattern of the society and the community responsibility and the society's responsibility for that. And also mention the climate change, how climate change affect the women and how the local government environments address these issues. And also the changing paradigm of gender and need of reimagining the gender agenda. The last speaker, Dr. Anisha Jaydev, mentioned the problems of the transgender people and the visibility of those people also. And also the barrier in participating in the decision-making position and the need of a structural transformation. These are the points raised by the speakers. Now, I'm concluding this session. We are planning to organize a face-to-face seminar after LST election. So that the newly elected representatives and the Panchayat officials can also participate. Before that, we plan to prepare a draft document by incorporating all the views from the speakers and the suggestions from participants, and published a draft document in the middle of November. And also we think that document will be useful for the preparation of the plan in the local self-governments. So I request the participants, you can raise your questions or suggestions through website or mail ID. Thank you. I request Sri Vijay Nair, the order text.
Dear friends, we are concluding this session. So next today's seminar, that is 5th day, Gender Inclusive Local Economic Development Challenges of Kerala. And I request all participants to join the next day at the same time, same place. So I thanks to all presenters and speakers, and special thanks to all participants. So thanks to all again. Good night.
Thank you.